In August of 2022, I decided to turn my whole life upside down. I was going to leave my 10-year career in the military, one that was very, very good. It was very enjoyable, continued to allow me to grow. I had great friends, great community. I'd reached sergeant within 10 years, and it was going very, very well. But there was something inside me where I was like, I feel like I'm destined for more. So I decided to take on probably one of the biggest challenges of my life. I was going to leave my comfortable career and put myself back out into the big wide world. So I moved to Dubai in pursuit of working for the world's leading personal training company, one that almost runs their company like the military. You either make the grade of what they are after, and it's of course the highest of standards, that's why they have so many gyms across the world, or you get kicked to the curb, you get the sack. Now bearing in mind I'm risking my whole life here, I've nothing to fall back on because all I know is the military, but I've got this one opportunity. Now, as you know, I'm all about purpose and direction. So actually, that was quite fucking exciting. So they would test us on our ability to get results with clients. And obviously that would break down into subcategories of how much knowledge you had, how well you could communicate, and how well you could make decisions at certain points. Now, one other element they were testing us on was our own ability to get fucking shredded. I got there in the August, and conveniently, they run a photo shoot in the November. Now, that sounds all well and good, but there was one very, very big problem. You see, this image was my starting point. Now, this may be relatable to quite a few of you, but I had the concern that a lot of you may have when you do a cut. Losing muscle whilst cutting, obviously the title of this video. And it is a real big problem because, like you, I'd been in the gym for years, slaving away, working hard. Like, I'm sure if you've watched my channel, you've seen my original starting point, how fucking skinny I was. So the idea of me going on a cut really did not sit well with me, and it might not with you. You might be thinking, I'm just not ready for a cut. Look how small I am. And the guys there, they were much bigger than me when I got there. So I was like, no, there's no way I can go on a cut. I'm just going to get small, I'm going to look weak, I'm just going to look like a pussy. And that's what you're thinking. You're thinking, I'm going to look like a fucking pussy if I do a cut. And that's the problem. You're literally thinking, cut, lose muscle. Less calories in, lose muscle. Less calories in, weaker in the gym. And that is the issue that so many people face in order to get to where they need to. So, you're going to like this video. You really are going to like this video, and I will tell how that story unfolds. But let's make sure we're on the same page before you watch any more of this video. The goal is to lose fat and retain, at the very least, retain all the tissue you have and also build muscle. Can it be done? Let me show you why I think it can be done. This is why I think it can be done, and you should listen to me. So, I'll show you the way that story unfolds at the end, but this is the results I get for the boys. As you can see, all of them, not that much tissue, but by the end of it, more tissue and more leanness. Here's another example you can see here, and I'm going to give you a sneak preview. This guy's not finished, but he's not far out, and it's going to be a good one. This one here, this you may find very, very relatable, bigger and leaner. So, let's roll back in. We're on the same page. In this video, I'm going to take you to building muscle, losing the body fat, and essentially not getting skinny when you're fucking cutting. So we're going to speak about the process now. So this is where you get your notebook and pen. You write down everything. I take screenshots of the screen if you're watching on your phone, or if you're not, you can still shoot the screenshot. And we'll go into each point. We're going to cover training, nutrition, cardio, and then how progress should look over the time frame. So starting off with training, the main things I want to cover with training is obviously your workout routine first and foremost. Now, if you are cutting, and the main focus is going to be the upper body. You're never thinking, oh, I'm cutting, my legs are getting skinny. You're never thinking about that, are you? So the first thing you need to think of is, right, what are the priority muscle groups? They will be your chest, biceps, shoulders, triceps, and then your back in that order. The midsection will take care of itself as you get leaner. So you need to write out your workout program so that you train your chest twice per week, with the adequate volume of around 15 sets. Now, you could go up to 20, but one thing I'll say with that is when people go towards 20, they don't train fucking hard. You need to train fucking hard on this. You cannot piss about. If you piss about, you will lose tissue. So 15 sets per chest. Arms, a little bit more, towards 18. Divide those up across your days. Shoulders, more, towards 18. Back towards 15. Structure your workout routine like that. Train 5 days a week, rest for 2. Try that. That is the sweet spot. I've done a whole video on the best workout routine for building muscle. It is essentially what I'm going to address to you here. Now, why do I mention how many times to do legs? Well, are legs the priority muscle group to showcase? Not necessarily. You don't want chicken legs. Fuck, you don't want chicken legs. You just look like a pussy then. But they're not the priority. What does training legs do to you? It accumulates a lot of fatigue, a lot more fatigue than all the other areas. Why? Because of the sheer size of the tissue areas. Look how big your glutes are, look how big your quads are, look how big your hamstrings are relative to any other muscle in the body. You could say your lats, fuck, your lats are very big, but considering you're going to do all that on one given day, the fatigue accumulated is huge. So we want to minimize that, because if we accumulate a lot of fatigue, then how is adherence going to be in every other area? Are you going to be able to push your other sessions when you're in that calorie deficit? Maybe not. Are you going to be more adherent to staying on a diet plan when you've fucking toasted your legs? Maybe not. So would it be smart to do legs more than once a week? No. You do them once a week. Maybe if you're quite well developed, I think you could even push to once every 10 days. And you could substitute that with some more weaker areas, let's say. So that's the way I'd structure my training program. We don't need to overcomplicate this. Don't fucking overcomplicate this. Train the main upper body areas twice per week, smaller areas towards the 20 set mark, bigger areas towards the 15 set mark. Train to failure. Because let's remember, why would you get skinny if you're on a cut? Because you're not giving the muscle a reason to stay on your bones. It's not the food that's going to do that. Obviously, it's part of it. We'll come on to that. But the training, and the reason I start with this, is the most important part. Training is the biggest reason to retain and build muscle. If I just gave you a nice diet and you followed it, would you build muscle? No, of course you wouldn't. The muscle is built in the gym. The muscle is retained in the gym. So training is literally the most important part of this whole process. The diet will get you lean. The training will keep and build the muscle on your frame. Do not pay lip service to that, or you will get skinny. Training is the one tool to keep that muscle on your bones. I cannot stress that enough. So you need to train applying progressive overload. Even in a cut, you will still see your numbers go up for the first 6 to 8 weeks. And then you may have to fight tooth and nail to just keep them at that point. But as long as you keep them at that point, you're not going to be losing the tissue. And in fact, that's a very, very good tell sign that you've not lost any muscle. Is if your numbers are going up in the gym, how can you be losing muscle? It's physically impossible. So one thing I will say is, and write this down, track your workouts if you don't already. That is a literal non-negotiable, to be honest, for the rest of your training career. Just track your lifts, because how do you know when to apply the progressive overload for the next session? If you're just at maintenance and you're just enjoying your training and it's not about the tissue building, then fine, don't track. But if you're bulking, if you're cutting, I would track my lifts. I would track what I'm doing and I would make sure I beat it the next time round. So progressive overload needs to be applied. Make sure you apply proper tempo to when you're performing the repetitions, and make sure you take it through a full range of motion. If you're only doing half reps, and I know you're not doing a half rep, but you're maybe doing a 3/4 rep like most people do instead of the full range of motion. If you need to understand what that looks like across all movements, just go look through my channel. I've been through majority of the movements explaining how to execute that with proper technique. Make a note and just go and watch that after. If the answer isn't on there, ask me personally, I'll make a video for you about it. So we know that the training is the most important part. Progressive overload needs to be applied because that's going to give the muscle a reason to stay on our bones. I've said it enough times, we know that is a non-negotiable. If you take anything away from this video, it is that. The next thing we'll discuss then is your nutrition. This one goes a little bit deeper and more detail. So the first thing we need to address is the calorie intake. Now, do not put yourself in a massive calorie deficit to start with. if we look at the starting point of this guy, he's not that fat. In fact, he's probably 15% body fat, maybe a bit more. Let's be real conservative. Let's say he's around 17. If someone's 17% body fat, don't put them in a huge deficit. Maximum would be 500, but you could even start a bit less. It depends on your time frame and if you've got like a certain window to hit. But I would just go in no more than a 500 calorie deficit, literally no more. And the reason I say that is if you put yourself on a target and you don't see a change, just drop it slightly the week after. But if you go real fucking deep real early, you're going to be without food for a long period of time. Because once you make that early move and to go low, where do you go from there? Like, you haven't got many more options as you go deeper in there. So don't go too low. Protein target. This is going to be another non-negotiable. So your protein target is worked out off your lean body mass. So if we said that guy was 17% body fat and he is sat at 80 kilos, let's do some quick maths for him. So he's 80 kg and we want to take off 17% because that's how fat he is, 13.6, which means his lean mass is 66.4. Now with this number, you really want to, one gram per pound of body weight is generally a good rule, but when we're doing a cut, you really want to make sure all the lean tissue is given enough protein. So you're going to want to get this number and times it by a minimum of 2.4. Maybe as you get deeper into the cut, you want to increase to 2.6. But for now, let's just say we'll times it by 2.4. So this guy's protein target per day is going to be, let's round it off for easy numbers, 160. As a non-negotiable, he needs to hit that as he goes through. Fat, drop in fat. Now, fat is important, and fat would want to be 25% of the total intake for as long as you possibly can. But there will come a point where calories need to come lower, and it would not actually serve you to have the fat that high. And the reason I say that is there's 9 calories in 1 gram of fat, right? So there's a lot of food that could be allocated to protein or carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates, when you're cutting, are pretty important. They're going to drive performance in the gym. If you can drive performance in the gym, you do what? What we fucking keep going on about, retain the tissue. So that macronutrient of fat, while you're cutting, does not actually serve you that well into the later stages. And to be honest, for about a 2-week period, you could go down to trace fats because you'll never be zero fat. It's impossible to have a zero fat diet because there's fat in everything. Trace amount of fat. I'm not saying run it forever, but if you did it for 2 weeks, it would not be the end of the world. And if that 2 weeks you could allocate more to carbs to drive performance in the gym, to hold onto tissue, to look better, would it be worth a fair trade-off? I think so. So don't be too scared of taking fat too low. I know people say about their hormones, this, that, and the other. To do that, from the research I've understood, you would have to take it to zero fat, which is hard enough to do anyway, and you'd need to run it for longer than a 6-week period. That's obviously not what I'm telling you to do. Do not fucking do that right now. This is what I'm saying. So it's not going to be that much of an issue. So actually, this is a tool you can play with to pull down and to manipulate to actually get more out of the overall target you've been given. The next thing to understand is when to introduce high carb days. Now that translates to refeed days. It translates to cheat days and cheat meals and fucking bullshit. Now, I'm going to simplify this for you. You don't need a cheat meal. Do not have a fucking cheat meal if you want to get in great shape. But when should you use a refeed day, or as I like to call it, a high carb day? Now, you will diet down for 6 to 8 weeks. At this point, you will feel flat. Now, what I'm saying is very important right now. When you say, I feel like I'm losing muscle or I feel skinny on a cut, what you're actually feeling is a muscle glycogen emptying out of the muscles. When you do that for a longer period enough time, you feel skinny, you feel flat. It's fucking normal. You must push through that. You must not just start to feel flat after 3-4 weeks and think, I'm skinny, I've lost it, right, fuck, back into bulking. Because you'll never get to the leanness that you want. The reason I can get the boys that lean and looking bigger is because I already know they're going to feel that. So we're already preset their mindset that you will feel flat. That is a good sign. That is a sign that what you are doing is working. Do not change the fucking plan at that point. Continue to push through. Now, once you've done it for 8 weeks, it actually serves you to fill the muscles back up by utilizing a high carb day. I will do a full video on how to do this because it would make this video drastically longer. We're already 15 minutes deep. So high carb day, the beautiful thing is it fills you up. After you've been dragged flat, it fills you up. When you are full up, you will be able to push training performance for at least the next 10 days. It will keep adherence to the plan for at least the next 10 days. After the 10 days, the insertion of carbs will have emptied the system and it'll be time to go again. And you continue to do that. Fill up, drag flat, fill up, drag flat until the job is done and you get to the end point. If you try and drag flat for the whole thing, the progress will start to stall. As well, you kind of trick the body into thinking, it's having more food, because you will of course you'll be on more calories, and not to go too much into it, you'll drop protein slightly, so you will have more food, so the body will think, oh great, we're having more food, and it will release more, without going too sciencey into it. When is carbs more important than protein? Now we've spoke heavily that protein is obviously very important for holding onto and repairing the tissue that you're building, but actually there will come a point where potentially carbs are more important than protein, because if we understand the biggest driving factor for holding tissue and building it is the training itself, and if carbs are the biggest driving performance of the gym floor, then potentially it will get to a point where calories are so low that you can't move the fats that much anymore, and actually it would make sense to just pull a little bit from protein to increase the carbs to continue to hold the numbers where they are, because holding the numbers where they are will retain the tissue more than hitting that protein target. So actually there is a valuable trade-off between the two. That's all I'll say on nutrition. Next thing is cardio. When to add it in? I would add it in earlier than I would pull food, because if you can keep food higher, again, drive performance in the gym. So after a week or two and you see the scale start to plateau slightly, I would add in cardio. I'd start with 20 minutes. I'd run that for as long as I could until I didn't see the gain from it. Then I'd increase by 10 minutes each time. What types of cardio should you do? You should do cardio that does not accumulate fatigue. So don't go out running, don't do sprints, don't do hits. You want to do, obviously we spoke about the duration, but you want to do something like a cross trainer, a bike, or an incline treadmill. You could do it daily, you could run it for the whole plan, because you're going to need to, without accumulating that fatigue, and we've touched on how long you should do it for. So what does the process look like? So you want to anticipate a rate of drop of 1% of the scale weight per week. In the beginning, it'll probably be a little bit more, just because you'll flush out water weight and muscle glycogen. So if you're seeing that 1% drop, so if he's 80 kilos, he's seeing 0.8 of a kilogram drop per week, or 800 grams, that is spot on, okay? Now, track everything. If you don't track everything, you will get emotional and you'll make stupid decisions. Like, I feel skinny, I feel flat, I'm going to quit this cut and go back into a bulk. Stupid emotional decision because you didn't track everything. So track your output. Steps cardio. With the steps, I haven't mentioned it, but essentially run 10,000 every day. The reason I wouldn't push too more, I just don't think you've got the time to be doing more than 10,000 steps a day. If you do, great, because it's a brilliant tool for fat loss. If you don't, increase through cardio. It's faster and it works quicker. So steps cardio we've spoke about. Track your numbers in the gym, because then you can know for sure I'm not getting weaker because my numbers are still going up. Track your nutrition, because then you know what you're eating and then what you need to make a change relative to see this drop. 1% drop per week. Try not to rush it anymore, because then you do run the risk of losing tissue, because you can't really lose that much more fat than around like 1% of your body weight per week, unless you're in a crazy deficit, which you don't need to be. So that's what the progress is going to look like. So you can understand your start point. So I've done many videos on how to work out like what your body fat is. So you understand your scale weight, your body fat, where you need to get to, which is going to be 8 to 10%. So you're lean and fucking crispy. The difference between the 2% and the scale weights, dropping at 1% per week, you can work out your time frame off the back of that and what that should look and feel like. So then, going back to my story, we set things up, we did the cut, obviously we fucking had to literally fight tooth and nail for this, because my whole career's on the line to how this physique is looking. I've never trained so fucking hard in my whole time, but I applied these principles. All of the principles I'm speaking to you about, I've literally applied from my own experience in order to get me to the end result. And this is how we got from this to this. Probably the best shape I've ever looked in my life. In terms of a leanness perspective, I'm bigger now for sure. So we went from, I think I was just below 80 in this photo, like maybe 79. Here we were 72 on the day. So we dropped 8 kilos in body fat. You'd be surprised, but yeah, there was 8 kilos to still shred off. You could say I looked bigger, or I at the very least held on to all of the tissue that I had. So it was a successful process, and one that you should easily be able to do the same. This is my Italian friend that also taught me essentially a lot of the things I'm teaching you in this video. So this is how we were able to get such a fucking great result. Like, I was literally inside out, peeled and shredded, probably 8% from what I can see here. Best condition of my life, absolutely, and obviously got the success I needed to progress me on it in the career there. And I think I've talked more about how the rest of that story unfolded on the channel in the past, but we'll wrap it up there. I hope you found this useful. I really hope you found this useful. Do not be scared of cutting. Cutting is necessary if you want to look fucking great on holiday. Cutting is necessary if you've put on too much body fat, because once you get down to this point here, you're in a prime position to go into a gaining phase, because you're very lean and responsive to training stimulus and to the way your body will use carbohydrates as well. So you really are in the prime position to drive performance at that point. So I hope you found this useful. If you want me to take you through this process, then there'll be a link in the description. Just book a call. And we can get you set up, get you started. Because I appreciate that having a coach here to do it for me was fucking very, very useful to teach me everything. I still get coaching now, and it really it helps, as I speak about, take the emotions out of it. Because if you're emotional, you'll make stupid decisions. I've been there, I've done it. I've made fucking stupid decisions just based on emotion. So if you've got someone like me looking at it from an outside point of view, going, stop being a retard, do this, follow this because of this, you'll be like, cool, okay, it makes sense. So I hope you found this useful. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you tomorrow.